Yo, my man Spags, how you doing, bro?
Oh, hey me. I'm just watching some paint dry.
Well, why not listen to a new Kehlani record?
I don't know. This seems more interesting.
Yeah, sadly, I was not a big fan of this Kehlani record at all. Her music to me is something that's always been interesting. I think that she can put out a really good single from time to time. I've never really liked a full album from Kehlani, however. She's similar to artists like Janae Eiko or Tory Lanez, who both appear on this record in a sense that she combines elements of pop, R&B, sometimes some hip hop style percussion and drums throughout her instrumentation. I would even compare her to someone like SZA, though I feel like SZA has a much more unique voice, a much more unique aesthetic when it comes to her music, and much more provoking original lyrics to what she's saying, not really very rudimentary or typical in the R&B field. But nonetheless, I was hoping she would improve, so I decided to review this album titled It Was Good Until It Wasn't. Now, unfortunately, this album was never good. um, Although it does have some highlights here and there. Now, that definitely doesn't come in the beginning because the first two tracks were just boring, dreary, sleepy beats, unpassionate delivery in her vocal style, very typical lyrics. I mean, you can see this with the first song, Toxic, which isn't a bad beat, but it never really builds into anything from the verses to the chorus. It kind of just remains at the same level, which makes it really sleepy for the length that the song is at. Kehlani is talking about a toxic relationship, but like in the most typical way. Like there's nothing really interesting about this. It's very like melodramatic, and she has such this like lull and passionless delivery throughout it that I feel like although it seems like she's singing about something that impacted her life a lot, it doesn't really sound like it based on how she's delivering it and the package that it's in. And I feel the same way about Can I, where I also feel like Tory Lanez seems like he's kind of phoning in the verse here, and once again, Kehlani isn't really giving me reason to be interested in her music. Like, she sounds like Janae Eiko throughout this whole project. She sounds like all kinds of different pop and R&B artists. Like, there's nothing super unique about what she's doing. There's not even anything very passionate about what she's doing. I must admit, like, certain songs like Bad News on this record do have a very dark view and sound and aesthetic because a lot of these songs are about a failed relationship or a breakup. But I just feel like Kehlani is going about this in such a rudimentary way that like it's boring me to death. I feel like if you make breakup songs, they have to be very unique to your situation but still relatable. And they have to really kind of show this passionate exposure of yourself and what you're feeling at the moment. I feel like Kehlani really missed that mark here by making this album so uninteresting. I'd say the first really interesting thing about it was the Real Hot Girl skit. It was just funny that Megan Thee Stallion has so much pride in her pussy and that other guys don't deserve it, which I think is like, you go girl, like female power, let's go. I guess that pridefulness is nice, but again, this is a skit. It's not even really including Kehlani in it. The next song, Water, really stands out for me, though, as actually one of my favorite tracks. I was surprised that this one had more unique production than the first couple of songs. There's these scattering piano keys throughout it. It sounds really dark. It sounds really dismal, but it's a very catchy groove at the same time. The harmonies that Kehlani is hitting in the pre-chorus and the verses with herself that she's recorded are actually quite beautiful. It's a bit more passionate than the dull vocal delivery we've had on the first few tracks of this album. And the way that she's singing Water on the hook, it sounds very cold, very intense. Like there's a lot of really good vocal effects and layering going on her voice here, and I liked it. I found it to be so catchy, man. I'll just walk around like water, water, water. Water. Um, there's so many allusions to water too, especially in the second verse where she's saying it's the way you drink it all like you're thirsty. She starts talking about I'll let you finish on the tat, which is pretty nasty. I love that kind of lyricism from her. It's say tsunami, bust down on her future baby mommy. Like there's a lot of funny wordplay going on and good flow within this verse. I really wish like the whole album had this unique of a style and this passionate of a delivery and this good of a flow. Because like the verse definitely has kind of like a hip hop type of flow to it, although she's singing. But I think that lyrically, it's a bit more interesting. I really thought I wasn't gonna like the next song, "Change Your Life" featuring Janae Eiko. I'm a huge fan of hers. Um, I have so many of her CDs and albums. I love Janae Eiko, but I just find that Kalani and Aiko have such similar styles that I figured if they collab together, it's kind of just gonna sound like, I don't know, a mixture of two chemicals together, just making more on top of each other, like a slice of ham on top of a slice of ham on top of a slice of ham. It's just kind of the same shit. But to my surprise, this is again one of the standout tracks on this record. Lyrically, Kalani is talking about she's in love with this guy who's a gangster, but she wants to change his life in a certain way. She wants to really make him happy and put him on a straight path that would make both of them happy together. I think on the chorus with two of them singing, "Let me change your life. I want you to see everything. You ought to be mine." I think that all of that together sounds really beautiful and romantic and quite a gorgeous delivery from the two of these artists. It comes off much better than I thought it would be. And I really like Janae's lyrics in the second verse where she's saying, "I'm not saying that you're incomplete, but just imagine what we'd be if we became one. You deserve someone that'll take you to another level." It just really seems like they're singing so much about motivating the guy they're with. And I don't typically like the idea that some guys have in their head where they're like, a woman that I date should be like my therapist because, that kind of behavior can get kind of abusive. But it seems like here the approach Janae and Kalani are taking is more like they want to motivate a person as opposed to just be their therapist and listen to them complain. Like Janae's talking about, "You've got so much potential." She says, "I really am fucking with you. Just open your heart." Like she wants him to be open to her. I thought it's one of the best written song on the project. I thought that it had one of the most gorgeous and lush instrumentations. And again, Janae and Kalani actually collab better than I thought. Definitely a highlight here. But again, however, after this, it's just more dull songs, dull beats, dull, passionless delivery from Kalani, and a lot of melodramatic lyrics that really don't sound too interesting of a story, to be honest. Like on the track Everybody's Business, where she's talking about how she doesn't like that everybody knows about her love life in this sense and that people are trying to find out more about it, but it's not their business. But based on the few songs here, I don't think Kalani's love life is really that fascinating. I think it's actually boringer than some other people's love lives. I mean, that's not to say that I think that she's approaching the idea of love wrong, and if she's happy in her life, I'm glad for her. I just think that she's not expressing it in a very interesting way on this album. So just based off that alone, she doesn't sound like she has the romance that I think a lot of people would really be interested in. Although I could be wrong. I'm just going based off of what this album sounds like and what it's telling me. Hate the Club is again a track that I just found to be so boring in every sense. Like a lot of songs on this album just have very sleepy production that doesn't really build up to anything. And on top of that, with such dull deliveries, it just doesn't really catch my attention. And Hate the Club is the same thing. She's talking about how she hates the club and she wants to go back with this guy. Finna get antisocial. Like a lot of it is just so many lyrical cliches throughout the whole project. And I feel like if you're going to write about love, you're going to write about heartbreak, something that's been written about in music so many times, you have to make it interesting. And this track doesn't really do that for me. I'd say the most interesting part is the feature on this one with, I think his name is pronounced Masigo, Masijo, Masiago, Masego. I'm not sure, but his feature, he plays a saxophone throughout this. It sounds really beautiful, and it does make this stand out a bit instrumentally, but I'd say the other parts of the beat really are kind of the same thing that we've seen throughout this project, and lyrically the same thing once again. Serial Lover was a song that I would say is actually a highlight for me. I love the guitar, the acoustic guitar on top of the drum beat on this. I love her flow throughout the verses. I like her harmonies and melodies on this a lot more, especially on the chorus where she's singing Serial Lover, Serial Lover. It's kind of crescendoing up and down. I think it's a lot catchier, a lot more passionate than some of the songs here. It does sound a bit dismal and dark and cold in her delivery, but I think that for the kind of song it is, it calls for that lack of emotion in the delivery. Like, it makes sense here. And yeah, I just think it's a really good lyrical take too on being addicted to romance, on her passion for loving harder, fucking harder. It's a great song. I definitely think it's a highlight here for sure. But the song after that, Grieving, shows Kehlani singing with some more emo based lyrics with his first verse saying, asking for space, I'd give my leg for it. I've reached a point, it's like I beg for it. I give my sweat and tears, damn, I bleed for it. And again, I think that this is digging a bit deeper in some songs, but kind of in a cliche way, I would say. The best thing about this track by far is the James Blake feature, but I feel like with him on the bridge and the chorus in that second half of the song, it's kind of just exposing how little passion there is and little variation there is in Kehlani's voice on this entire album and this song. Like, I think that this feature and the Mass Ego one, Massagio, whatever his name is, I think these two really just kind of outshow her and outshine her on her own track, which isn't really good for an album, but I did enjoy those features. Open and Passionate is just more melodrama, more uninteresting things about Kehlani's past relationships that really I've heard in so many R&B and pop songs before that I feel like she sent this through like a machine and they just kind of generated like what words and lines people typically use in this style of music. Like, there's nothing super interesting about what she's saying. There is a good beat switch that's very smooth in the second half of the song, but it doesn't really bring much when Kehlani sounds like she's asleep at the mic. Lexi's outro is kind of fucking amazing. Like, the rap verse on this is incredible. She's saying too much envy in the air, jealousy over there, they energy hella weird. Gotta keep a distance cause them bitches slipping. And when they do it every day, it turned to repetition. You will not catch me slipping. You will not catch me tripping cause my grandmother go through summer with no air conditioning. So so why the fuck would I let myself get in their position? Like, there's just so many fucking ballsy and aggressive lines in this. Such an interesting backstory to this Lexi character, as opposed to the backstory of Kehlani on this album. Like, there's so much trials and tribulations throughout the lyrics of this, and it flows so nicely with her delivery. I just wish, like, I don't know, maybe Lexi should have been on more songs here, because it's more interesting than what Kehlani is doing, in my opinion. Or if she's having a solo project, I'd love to hear it, because this shit is fucking great. And even the second half of her verse, she's talking a lot about she's got her mind focused on money. She's not going to mess with these fucking little boys anymore. They don't have what she wants. Like, again, just, girl power. Hell yeah. Fucking power to the woman. You do you. Stay independent. You do you, you know? And I just feel like Kehlani could have approached this whole album with that kind of lyrical approach, but it just resulted in something so horrifically boring and uninteresting and unflattering. I really didn't like this album. I really don't want to listen to it again. I feel like each song kind of blended with how dull they all sound, to the point where I actually even forgot some of the tracks, to be honest. So, unfortunately on this one, despite the couple of little highlights I mentioned, I'm feeling a 1 jalapeno bagel out of 5. I'm not sure what the hell this is, if it's like a kid's book. I just found it on my laptop. I don't know who put it here, but it says Jalapeno Bagels by Natasha Wing. I don't know who that is. I don't know what this book is about. It looks like a children's book, but I don't know what kind of children's book is about fucking jalapeno bagels, but guess I gotta read it one day. I don't know. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna be reviewing the new Bad Bunny record, as well as perhaps the new Nav record and Charlie XTX. I've been really liking that one. So stay tuned for more content. Thanks.